Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn. This is a short video just recapping some drainage projects I've done recently and with some rain to see how they're working. Got about 1.25 inches of rain in the last 4 or 5 hours, but we're actually supposed to get more rain tonight with the remnants of Hurricane Debby, which I think is the second hurricane to hit the continental U.S., and both of them have come right over Vermont after they've done their damage south. So this is the ditch on this road here in the field that I plan to just make grass. I'll bring topsoil up to the edge of the road and sort of make a grass swale just off the road. And I think that's going to be okay. There's not a lot of flow here. And I decided to extend this rock ditch because it was getting a lot more flow, and you can see that, you know, where the water's coming off the edge of the field. So I've gotten enough rock here to hold the fabric down. I want to put more. Obviously I want to cover the fabric and put a bit more rock in here. There's a lot more water there coming off the field. So this is the area, I don't know exactly because it's covered with water, but where I had stopped my original ditch this way and continued it on here because it had sort of dammed up and was flowing into the road. And I think it's right here that happened. So it's not done that yet, but it's very high. So I'm really at the sort of the capacity of my ditch. But I think in this case, rather than take all these rocks up and dig the ditch deeper, I think I'm just going to raise the road by a couple inches, which probably could use that anyhow. And it'd be a lot easier, maybe a little bit more expensive, but time is money, so it'll take a lot less time. I also fix this a little bit here, which I know this is a bit low here. I've actually added some just beyond where it's sort of spilling into the road a bit right here. Added some here, and this is doing its job. So it's a fair amount of flow. So by the time it gets here, this is pretty deep, it's pretty wide, a lot of big rocks. So you see all that flow there, it just sort of hides underneath the rocks once it gets here. And then it collects with the town road ditch and goes through the 24-inch culvert. So this is the primary drain of this field area through an 18-inch culvert. This is that large sort of collection area that I put a lot of these larger sort of machine-handleable rocks on. And most of this water is all running underneath the rocks, through the rocks, and there's a fair amount coming through the ditch there. So I'll go through that culvert. This is that 300-foot plus extension to that road that we were just on over there that I put a video out here just recently. This road was easy to put in, doesn't require any ditching because it's all flat, but I did wonder what was going to happen here with this standing water that was here when I put the road in. And there's more standing water, not surprisingly. This is the area that I knew was going to be some standing water. I just don't, and I don't know now how quickly it's going to go away, if I have to worry about it as far as putting in drainage now or wait. This here I was sort of playing with the mud as best I could. This will all drain that way. These are just sort of temporary puddles because of how the dirt happened to spread out, or not. As the case may be, but I'm not worried about this side. It's really just over here where this is going to puddle up. And the question is, does it drain quickly? Is it going to come up over my road? Probably we'll be able to look at that again tomorrow morning, 24 hours after that second batch of rain comes from the Debby remnants. So this is a small problem area that I didn't video fixing, but I've actually a couple iterations of this. There's a fair amount of drainage that comes off this field. We are downhill, obviously. I had diverted it mostly off to this side, to the right, and it actually flows now sort of through the grass, so you really don't see it. But I still had some, and I still do now, going down the road, which is what I wanted to avoid. So there's a little bit here. So I guess I need to be a bit more aggressive about ditching it this way, but you can see most of this is actually going here. So this is all freshly cut out, which I did recently during one of my trips here into the woods to do other drainage projects. And this is working well, because otherwise that flow would have mostly been here in the road. I do have that dense grade material on this part of the road, so it's never really washed out much, even though I have had flow through it. I did talk about that in one of my recent videos about what that dense grade material is. So here I can see that some of this water here is coming out into the road. But the issue with digging too deep and being too aggressive with ditching here is that I'm going to start to interrupt the roots of some of these trees that I want to keep. So some of this I just may leave the way it is. It's not a lot of volume, and it's not very steep here, so there's not a lot of velocity, so I'm really not too concerned about it washing the road out. You can see here there was just a little soft spot there, which is not nearly as soft as it was, but you can see this bluish color still, and that's that dense grade compared to the native brownish. I think most of this material is not native to this specific location. This is gravel, a crusher run gravel I brought in, but even between the crushed gravel and the quarry product and dense grade is 100% crushed granite, essentially, or bedrock. It's blue versus brown. So I put one trailer load, a small one, probably about 3, maybe 4 yards of dense grade to fill in this area here, which had washed out in the past. Most of the water that drains off that sort of swampy area there goes underneath rocks. This is a sort of a natural culvert that I did not put in. I just went over it. You can see hopefully water running in there. So there's a lot of water running through there. And I put a ditch sort of as an overflow rather than going over the road. If that becomes too much, then it'll come here from the left where it is now and go through this 15-inch culvert, as well as other drainage from up that way. And here you can see a little bit there from the rocks. During a real heavy rain, this will be completely full. This is what happened last time, and it'll still crest over the bank and rush across the road. Hopefully with this dense grade, I'll minimize washout compared to just having crushed gravel like I did before. Again, the brown there versus the blue there. That's the difference between bank run crushed gravel and the quarry product, the dense grade. This ditch here I've had for several years. This worked really well. We had another major storm before I did this, where all this water was running down my road and caused major washout. So I took the time and dug this ditch. It was quite a project, going all the way down to the pond that we'll walk over here in a bit. The way I devised this, there are 3 culverts that divert the water that way, and then sort of just into the natural swale. And I put a little bit of a bank here, and I know it does run over, so if this gets too much for this, hopefully rather than coming into the road, it'll just continue on to this ditch down to the next culvert. And each of these culverts have the same sort of treatment. This one here, you can see the laid over grass. It does occasionally get flow, sort of like a surge in rain, I suppose. But normally that first culvert will get almost all the water. You can see just a trickle of water going in that one. And again, it ends there in the bushes. And the last culvert here, the same sort of treatment, a little bit of a bank here to the right, where that's slower than the road, but it is quite a bit higher than the ditch feeding into it, so to force the water into the culvert until it gets too high. So from here on out, this ditch just goes into the outlet stream from the pond. This is typical for this ford that runs across the road during a heavy rain. The more rain we get, it'll just be a wider and wider swath. And it seems to work really well. The only washout I've had during the most significant rain is a part of this had washed out. I've filled that back in with rocks. We had a minor washout here. I put like a bucket full of dense grade in there. You can see a little bit of water trickling across that. So we'll see what happens to this again overnight when we get the second dose of rain. Right here, it's probably only about 5 inches deep. But I really like that ford. I like it better than the culverts that I had there before, because when the culverts get inundated and wash out, it makes it impassable. I've not had that problem yet with the ford. So this is the other area. I can see there is no water here to speak of, which was my purpose. There is a little bit there, but that comes from the road just to the back end of the bulldozer straight ahead. The other area we did was to the right, but let's visit this one. See what's happening here. So there's a little bit of flow. This is the 6-inch SDR35. I mean, it's very little flow. It's very muddy. And I had added some clay, which is what this mud, tracked in mud is. So there's where that culvert starts, right here. So right now there's not a lot of flow, which is interesting because I used to go down the road where we're walking and then onto that other road where there was a little bit of washed out fine gravel you could see there. This is my attempt at a little diversion dam. I don't see any water here to force it to either into that ditch or that way where the dogs are. There's a culvert. You can see the green inlet. But I put this dam here because I was afraid that when the water comes off the hill, it might come between the trees. I don't have any ditching there. This is sort of the high point, and I didn't really want to do much here because there's no reason to take these trees down. So I never brought my transit out or a level, but now I have the water level. I don't need that. So my issue was right here is ledge. It might be able to be broken up if I had a bigger machine or with rock teeth, but I didn't want to mess with that. Now I'm not sure I'm going to need to, because that's the high spot. As long as that is lower than the road, I think I'm good, and right now it is, particularly after I added, oh, maybe 2 or 3 inches of clay on top of that to raise the road up. And that was to make sure that this ditch goes this way into this culvert and not across the road, which it had been doing. But there's still evidence. I didn't completely cover it up, so it washed out here. So right there, that water had come across and washed that out, and right now there's no flow. But we haven't had the worst of the drainage yet. In fact, compared to the field, the water flow in here is not nearly as much as I would have assumed. I'm guessing it'll pick up for tomorrow morning. The last section of drainage I had was up here. So this is where we put a bunch of these larger rocks, about 40 yards, my best guess as a volume. And we had this area here filling up with water, and then we put that same 6-inch SDR35 right there. So there's a little bit of water, and like I had mentioned during the video, there's not a lot of flow. This really isn't a sort of a common drainage area. But without this drain here, this is just going to fill up slowly over time and be level with the road because it works as a dam. and it would be about 2 feet deep. And it would eventually impact these trees with waterlogged roots most of the time. That water just comes out here and will just spread over this mossy, grassy area. The other area of concern in this section of road is up here, which I still don't know what I'm going to do or if it's even going to be much of a problem. Similar to where we just looked at is right here, a bit of a puddle. So right now that puddle is basically the same level as the puddles in the road. That's sort of the water table locally. Whether I'll have to drain that out or whether I just leave it, I don't have a lot of depth here to put much in the way of a culvert. It would have to be another shallow 6-inch pipe, which is all that would be needed volume-wise. And drain out that way. So those are the project updates during a rainstorm. If it changes significantly with the rain tonight, then I'll bring you back and show you more video. So it's interesting, it's about 24 hours later, maybe 8 to 12 hours since the rain stopped, and the runoff from the field has stopped already. But the runoff here in the woods is actually more than when we were here last. So in this 8-inch culvert in the area where I made the ditch, that standing water basically is determined by the level of that ledge right there. But it seems to be fine. I'll probably leave it, and there's plenty of flow in there. And this other ditch that we made actually has significantly more flow than it did yesterday. I don't know if my little makeshift dam is working. Hard to say. I don't see any evidence of water there, but it's running through there. So somehow it's getting there. And running harmlessly down there. See, before I put that in, all that water would be running down this road and then down this more gravel-topped road. Basically in this little area here where you can see the aggregate exposed. So that's dry, and that's good. That was my objective. So I guess I didn't realize that there's a significant delay in the rainfall and the runoff in the woods versus the rainfall and the runoff in the field. I guess it makes sense, but I never really paid much attention to it. So that will wrap it up for this. No more significant rain in sight, and everything that we've done seems to have worked as intended. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it.